Right here, I've been looking back today on something that happened nearly 30 years ago in Norfolk. Back then I was a Kung Fu instructor with the Golden Dragon Kung Fu Association, headed by Master David Skates. David thought it would be a good idea to take our students out on the Norfolk Broads. The idea being we'd cruise around the Broads, stopping at interesting places and doing a bit of training. So David put this to the students and there was a lot of interest. Everyone wanted to go on this trip. So arrangements were duly made, and one 4-day bank holiday weekend in the summer, when the weather was absolutely beautiful, we went to Norfolk. It happened, and this is the story of what happened on that trip. There were about 40 of us who descended on Potter Heigham at the start of this holiday, and the first thing we noticed was the low stone bridge right next to the boatyard. At normal water levels, the boats only just fit through under the bridge. Unfortunately, on the day we went, the water levels were abnormally high. The boatyard manager advised us to take the other route and not go under the bridge. We'd hired, I think, 4 of the quite large boats that held 10 to 14 people on each boat, similar to these ones. And we got round the problem by getting all 40 of us on one boat, which weighed it down just enough to get it under the bridge. And then we get to the other side, moor it up, and we'd all go back across the bridge, and all 40 of us got on the next boat. And in that way we managed to get all of our boats under the bridge, and we could start our holiday. You can see the clearance on a normal day. I think partly because they thought I was a responsible adult, I was put in charge of my boat. I think later events probably disabused anyone of that idea completely. In truth, they say they can't take memories away from you. It's not actually true, is it? I mean, this happened 30 years ago, and I'm now nearly 70. My memory's not what it was anyway. And in truth, there's a lot of this trip that I can't remember anymore. There are salient parts of it that I found really amusing that I can remember, and this is what I'm going to be talking about through this video. So we arrived at St. Benet's. St. Benet's is a fascinating place. It was the abbey was originally built in the 9th century, and it's an Anglo-Saxon abbey. The first abbey was destroyed by the Vikings, and the abbot killed, and it was rebuilt about 10 years later. It's the only abbey to have survived through the Middle Ages, and it's the oldest abbey in England. The abbey also survived the dissolution of the monasteries carried out by Henry VIII, and it also survived an attack in the People's Revolt of 1381. So there's a lot of history there. Personally, I love the place. I love the atmosphere of it. We had another master with us, training with us on this trip, and his name was Ghassan, and he's a Libyan, and he runs Kung Fu schools across the Middle East. Ghassan had a party trick. He could run up walls. If you stuck him in front of a wall, he could run up it. The guy was like a gecko. I've never seen anything like it in my life. And he demonstrated this talent to us at St. Benet's Abbey. Later on, we posed on one of the walls for a photograph. And I remember thinking at the time it's a bit dodgy because this is an ancient monument. I don't really like standing on it. then I thought, well, the local people stole most of the abbey, or disappeared entirely. You can still see it in the ground, but all the stones have gone because the local people stole them. And then in the 18th century, some pillar built a windmill right in the middle of what was left. So I thought it might be alright in the end, standing on the wall after all, after everything else that has been done to it. This was a minor infringement. It has a wonderful atmosphere, and I would dearly love to go and see it again, but I look at it looming out of the mist in the early morning. Absolutely wonderful. That's one of the remaining walls, like the one that we stood on, and it was quite a big site originally. And there is the picture of us on the wall. I am the man in the middle, halfway up the wall in the red and black tracksuit. We've been doing a fair bit of training in the afternoon around St Benet's Abbey, and I was talking to Dave afterwards, and we were talking about spirit animals. And Dave said he could put someone in a trance and turn them into the spirit animal as long as they were in the trance. So I was having a good laugh. I didn't believe him. And he said, no, it's not funny, so I can do it. He said, I'll show you tonight. So in the evening, all of us are actually inside St Benet's Abbey, inside the bit that used to be the windmill. And Dave put this guy into a trance. I was trying to remember this guy's name now, I can't remember his name. I remember him because he did 2 pictures of someone doing Kung Fu in the cave mouth. And he gave one of them to me and one of them to Dave, and I've still got mine on the wall. I'll put it up next after this talk so that you can see the picture. Anyway, Dave put this guy into a trance, and he did turn into a gorilla, and he was taking an inordinate interest in me, and he was getting quite aggressive, and he was looking in my hair and looking in my ears and moving around me, and I was getting quite nervous. Well, that's a polite way of saying I was bricking it. I thought any minute he's going to tear my ear off or bite my nose off, and that's going to be it. And when he started humping my leg, I actually did a runner. I must be the only person ever to be chased around St Benet's Abbey by a gorilla. It was all a take on. I fell for it hook, line and sinker. And this guy, all his life he had been practicing how to act like a gorilla. And it was his party piece. Wherever he went, he did this thing where he acted like a gorilla. So that was absolutely hilarious. Everybody was falling about, and the joke was on me, but I see the funny side. Boys being boys, it wasn't long into the trip before we had some fun and games going. The idea being that there was a trophy. I can't remember what it exactly was now. But anyway, it was a trophy. And each group of us on the different boats were a team. And the idea being you had to fight the others to get the trophy and to keep the trophy. So after we left St Benet's Abbey, we're cruising along the waterway towards Borough Castle. And the boat that I was behind, they had the trophy at the time. So they start standing on the back of their boat, waving this trophy and jeering at us because they had the trophy. So me being me, I'm not having that. and I had to drive the boat. So I picked one of my crew, one I thought was a good fighter, and I said, if I pull up behind their boat, I said, you jump on their boat, grab the trophy, jump back on our boat, and roll away with it. So he said, okay. So he goes to the stands on the bow of this boat. I go hurtling up behind the other boat. Last possible second, I throw the boat into reverse. I timed it just right. Our boat slowed, it just very gently touched the back of the other boat. My man jumps on their boat, tries to grab the trophy, they fight him off. He ends up jumping back on our boat and I pull away, so we failed. And I thought, I'm not having this. They're still standing on the back of their boat, waving this trophy and jeering at us even more now. So I thought, I'm not having that. I said, I asked my crew, I said, is there any of you guys know how to handle a boat? And one of them said, I can handle a boat. I said, are you any good? He said, yeah. He said, I know what I'm doing. I said, can you do what I've just done? I said, pull us up the back of this boat so I can jump on their boat and I'll fight them for the trophy. So he says, okay. So I went down onto the bow of our boat. The other crew are still waving and jeering and holding this trophy up. So this guy I put in charge of driving our boat now, he was hurtling up behind their boat. He didn't put it in reverse at all. Smashed straight into the back of their boat. Unfortunately, it did quite a bit of damage to both boats that we actually had to pay for in the end when we got back to the boatyard. Anyway, in the confusion, I jumped on their boat, grabbed the trophy out of the hands of the guy who had it. It was a little kung fu fight there to get it away from him, and I jumped back on the boat. We pull away, and then we've got the trophy, and we're jeering at them. So this is what I said. They were wrong to think that I was a responsible adult. This is a view from the landing stage at Borough Castle, looking out over the land with the castle behind us. That's some of us on one of the boats at the landing stage. The gentleman on the left front row in the multicoloured tracksuit is Dave Skates himself. Behind him is Hightower, who we'll be talking about later on. Next to Dave Skates in the front row is my daughter Amber and myself, still wearing a red tracksuit. That's me posing on the landing stage. I couldn't resist it when I saw the sign. Can't believe how fit I was then. Borough Castle was a 3rd century Roman cavalry fort that was built to defend against Saxon raids up the rivers. When it was built, the water levels were much higher, and it was actually on the estuary then, though it's nowhere near the estuary now. It measures roughly 670 feet by 330 feet. And it was one of 9 forts built by the Romans that were all linked by signal stations. It could hold 1,000 infantry soldiers or 500 cavalry soldiers and their horses. Between the 7th and 9th centuries, it was a monastic settlement, and in the 11th century the Normans built a Motte and Bailey castle, but nothing remains of that now. That's been totally levelled. We did a lot of training there. We did Tai Chi early in the mornings, we did Kung Fu most of the day, and also, as it was on a hill, which is unusual for Norfolk, it's pretty flat, but it's built on a hill, we had a competition who could keep running up and down the hill the longest. And I was quite chuffed I won, because I was 40 at the time. there were a lot of younger people than me there. So there you see, parts of it are really falling down. Parts of it are still well preserved and it's at its original height, and one wall is gone completely. But it's a pretty spectacular place. It looks really wild, and I didn't realise at the time it's actually basically almost in Great Yarmouth. There's a picture from the top showing one wall completely missing. We've been training most of the day inside and outside Borough Castle. And Borough Castle was supposed to be haunted. There was a massacre there. The Vikings broke into the castle. I think some traitor had let them in through the gates, and they massacred everyone in the castle. So it's supposed to be haunted. When we've been training during the day, in one corner of it, it must have been 15 feet up in the wall, I discovered a little sort of hollow niche. And I climbed up there during the day and had a look at it, and I thought it would be a great place to meditate in the evening. So later on in the evening, I was going to go up there to meditate. One of our students was an American guy, I forget his name as well. We called him Hightower because he was a big black guy, he was massive. He was like the policeman in the cops film. So to us he was Hightower. He was in the American Air Force and he was based at Mildenhall. And he turned up on this trip and he had emergency runway lights. And what they were is those things that you bend and they start glowing. But I'd never seen them before at the time. It's 30 years ago. These are the first ones like that I'd ever seen. And they were quite big as well because they were intended to use on runways. Anyway, he gave me one of these things and I went off on my own up to this little niche up in the wall. And I climbed up the wall into the niche and I was sitting there cross-legged in the meditation position, and I had this thing that was broken, so I had a green glow around me. And I was sitting there and I hadn't really got into the meditation yet, I was just starting to go down. And all of a sudden I heard people talking, and there were two girls and their boyfriends walking along underneath where I was sitting. And all of a sudden I heard, "For fuck's sake, run!" And these two guys and these two girls took off across the thing at a rate of knots. And all they could have seen from where they were was a disembodied green glowing floating head 15 foot up in the air. I bet there must be people. I bet they must be still dining out on that story. There must be people now telling the story, the ghost of Borough Castle. And, later on, when I actually was meditating, I had a very strange experience. As I was going down deeper in my meditation, I suddenly realised that I wasn't breathing. And I thought, if I'm not breathing, I must be dead. And as soon as I thought that, I was outside of my body. And I was looking down at myself, sitting there meditating. And then I was rising higher and higher and looking down on everything as I was getting higher. And also I was going faster. The higher I got, the faster I was going. And then I started feeling that I was expanding to fill the space around me. So I wasn't just travelling through space, I was expanding to fill that space. And I was going faster and faster and faster, and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I got to a place where there were amazing lights. I can't describe the lights because they're not like any colours that I've ever seen. So I don't have the words to describe what they look like. But it was a wonder. I felt that I was becoming one with the universe instead of being a separate entity. And then it was a little dot of light like that, and it opened out to fair size, and there was a man standing there. And the man stepped through the gap that he'd made, and he stood there looking at me. And it was Jesus. And he stood there and he looked at me, and he smiled. Then he turned away. He stepped back into the gap, closed down again, pop, gone. And I started travelling backwards. It was like I was at the end of an elastic band that was at full stretch, and now it was pulling me back. And I was going backwards, and I was travelling faster and faster and faster, and I was also shrinking, so I wasn't filling the space anymore. And then I hit my body with a big jolt and nearly fell over. And I was thinking about what had happened afterwards, and I thought, well, if there is a God, he's not actually going to look like our idea of Jesus. That's just a man's idea, an image. And God's not really going to look like that, so it couldn't have been him. And then I thought, well, no, if God wanted to appear to me, he would actually choose a form to appear in that I would recognise as being God. And I think I'd actually died. I think I died. And I think I was on my way to wherever you go. And I think when I was getting there, he came to tell me that it's not my time. You know, he looked at me and smiled, turned away. He didn't say anything, but he went back and he left me there. And I think he was saying, get on, Brian, back to where you come from. It's not your time yet. So that was a really interesting end to the story of the weekend. And that really concludes my memories of that wonderful weekend all those years ago. I'm pleased to say that the Golden Dragon Kung Fu Association is still going strong, and Dave Skates is still the master. I live down in Cornwall now, and I haven't seen Dave 20 years. We're still in touch on Facebook, and I hope one day maybe I will get up there and see my old friend.